at council meeting. One of them was the request that my office had put out to help us in finding qualified persons to volunteer and serve on different cities, boards, and commissions. I am pleased to say that my executive assistant is correct. I think we've had over 20 applications come in, and that's really encouraging. And the quality of those applications is really good. It's not that that we didn't have quality beforehand, but I am really pleased to see that the community is responding to that need. They are identifying those areas of interest that they want to serve on and have sent the applications in, and we're in the process of filling those boards. And I think it's become a more robust process by looking at the applications, vetting the information that we get, making sure that we're matching everybody up with what they want to do so that they'll be long-term volunteers. I think that's part and parcel to Topeka, and that's how a segue into the next comment, and that is our volunteer base in Topeka. Oftentimes it is pointed out that in Topeka there are a lot of things that are done by nonprofit organizations that rely upon the volunteers in Topeka, and there seems to be no end to the number of people who want to help in some way. They just need sometimes the idea or the suggestion of where they can be most effective. And so that then leads us to what we're doing with changing the culture of code. And that has really been a surprise, I think. And again, the volunteer base that has stepped forward to help with the initial stages of that effort and program. One of them is the lawn mowing effort that I think is the first stage. Again, with the efforts of Councilwoman Valdivia Alcala and Councilwoman Hiller, who have been working on this project for some time, and as they shepherd it down the road, the volunteers that have showed up to help them in the initial stages have really been, I think, surprising in number. So kudos to them and what they're doing, and to those volunteers. To add specifics to that, if you have not yet had the opportunity to volunteer, there is a number that has been put out that you can call, and they will direct you to that opportunity for you. And that is 785-368-9530. That's 785-368-9530. And if you contact that number, a city employee will help you find that place where you think it can be most helpful in bringing about change to how we address code here in the city of Topeka. I wanted to get those announcements out before we get down the road. We have many other things to talk about today. So one of the real reasons that I have asked Mr. Wade to join us today is because I know the community is very interested in what happens next with the ARPA hearings. And if everybody has had a chance, at least in here, to look at that meeting that took place held by the Policy and Finance Committee, I think I would firstly want to give them thanks for their effort and due diligence in what they did. That was a lot of applications. Was it like 85? 85 applications that came in requests for ARPA funds. That's a difficult task. I've served on the committee that existed before on the grants committee, and you want to give money to everybody because everybody has a good thing that they're doing for the community, but it's not possible. We have limited funds, so it's important that we really give due diligence to what we're doing with those funds and make them as impactful as possible for the community. And so today, I'd like to ask Mr. Wade to give us like a bit of an update that will follow and what happens next so that people who are following the process can continue to monitor it. Mr. Wade?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly we have, for anybody who did not get a chance to watch the proceedings last Friday, those are available at topeka.org, so you can watch the proceedings themselves. I think that if the deputy mayor were here, he would tell you that, to your point, some very difficult decisions with 85 applicants. But those first numbers have been cut down, and those that were not selected to advance to the next round will receive a letter either today or tomorrow that notifies them that. The rest of them have some questions that they're being asked to do, and those questions are due this Friday for the committee for additional consideration. And then I believe on September 23, the Policy and Finance Committee will regather and then for some additional consideration. So lots of applicants, lots of money that's being requested. Mr. Mayor, I think was telling you earlier that had a chance to be around 34 different U.S. communities last week, and the process that Topeka is doing is very unique. It's very different, and this committee and this council is involving our community, and this is really good stuff to see.
Just to follow up, I know that in the beginning when these funds came in, city manager and others were getting requests from the community is, why aren't we spending this money right now? Why haven't we started to disseminate the money throughout the community? We wanted to be very purposeful in what we were doing, and so we chose this route to make sure that we were not just making decisions off the cuff, that they were considered decisions that took in the community input and the feedback. And I think this step process has raised our level of responsibility in how we handle these funds to a very high level. And as Mr. Wade points out, of those communities that he had contact with, just about all the communities had already dispersed their funds.
That's right.
So we're very unique in a good way, that we're really taking this effort to make sure that the monies are used in the most impactful way. So I appreciate the opportunity to update us on that, and we'll keep following it. A big piece of this is that we're equitable in how we do put these monies to work for the community. And to that effort, I want to speak to something that I have talked about openly before and will continue to advocate for. In this upcoming budget process, I have asked the city manager to work with me, and he has done an excellent job in helping me vet information that came into my office to bring us to a place where we have put a position description into the budget for a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, for lack of a better term, that would work directly under the city manager and the mayor's office to make sure that this advocacy that we're talking about, that we heard about at the ARPA hearings, is ongoing. That it's not just at times when we're looking at available funds or budget considerations, that it is a way that we change how we think we provide services for everyone in the city on a day-to-day basis. This office, that office, will be, as I consider it, the advocate for the whole entire community, so that no specific community feels like they are either being targeted or left out of consideration. So it's something that I feel very strongly about. I think that unless you make an intentional effort to do it, it's something that becomes lost in the shuffle of everything else that goes on in a busy day in government. So people who are paying attention to both the ARPA funds and to the budget process, if they have questions about that position and how it will function, I invite you to call either myself or the city manager, and we'd be more than glad to share the vision that we see that will help the city move forward on an ongoing basis as how we consider everyone's needs in the community. So now I want to move on to something else, and that everyone is following, and that is the update on the selection of the city manager. City manager.
The process, as everybody knows, is moving forward. August 30th, we have interviews scheduled. The final 4 candidates have been identified and made public, and so everybody can maybe do their own research and look into the candidates. And at the August 30th, the interviews, there's a community panel as well as a governing body interview panel. And then in the evening, there will be a public meet and greet where the citizens and the community can come in and then meet the candidates for the office of city manager. And I encourage everybody to come out and participate in that. It'll be a good time to have conversation with individuals and meet the candidates firsthand and have some possibly meaningful communication with them. And there'll also be a comment box which you're able to write comments or questions, and you can deposit those in the box, and then the governing body will also look at those. And then the governing body will then get with the community panel to review their input. That won't take place on the 30th. It'll take place after that. Give everybody an opportunity to kind of decompress, review all the information, and take in those interviews and absorb that information. So the process is set, and we're August 30th is where we're headed.
Thank you. I want to stress that if there's an opportunity for the public to speak to their city council person about this process, if they have some concerns or some thoughts and ideas that they would like to make sure that their council representative takes into consideration during this interview process, that they contact them directly, or they can call my office, but reach out to your council district representative and let them know what you are thinking, what you want to know about these candidates. How will they affect the city? How will they bring different changes to the city? Be asking the critical questions now before a selection is made, if a selection is made. So do that now rather than after the fact. We want your participation in that. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Another thing I want to acknowledge is I got a chance to take part in the celebration of the Impact Avenues. It's a program that the city administers. It was their 3rd anniversary. They are doing amazing work. They are really making changes in people's lives that are significant and long-lasting. And they developed a process that I think is very effective, that's inclusive. It kind of brings everybody in a one portal entry kind of a thing to evaluate the needs and then address them in the most effective way. They also created a video, I think, with the help of Gretchen Spiker. And I think what I'd like to be able to do is, if that isn't yet available, have it on our site, and or maybe have a presentation to the governing body one of these Tuesday evenings, so that they can all share in the success that effort has seen over the years. I'm very glad to see that I sat next to a woman who was a client for the Impact Avenues. And I'll tell you this, as they spoke and then when the video started, not to be too dramatic, she started to cry. Because it affected her and her husband and her family that much in their lives. So to see what our staff is putting together and how they are really making a difference and not just talking about what they want to do, they're doing it. I want to congratulate all the staff who work with the Impact Avenues and what they were doing. And I was privileged to sit there and applaud them for their success. Another thing I want to highlight is Level 2 Technical Center at the library. I got to be there behind the scenes initially, and then there for the ribbon cutting. If you haven't had a chance to go by there and take a look at it, I tell you, it's really impressive what our library has evolved into over the years. It is not just a library. It was a case study that came to my mind when I was thinking about this, that we looked at about what is the core business of a library. And some people still think maybe you check out books and a few videos and discs and stuff, and that's about it. But they've gone way beyond that. And this Level 2 Technology Center will really be a boon to a lot of people who don't have the resources initially in their home. You have the internet connection, maybe have some difficulty with it. It's all right there at the library. They've got, I can't remember what they said, 30 computers available. They've got 3D printers available. They've got a working podcast studio and a video studio. And you can use it for just about any project that you might have in mind, or just for your personal use to build a resume or do research. It's all available, and all you need is a library card. That's it. I mean, that's pretty good membership fee. So I just really want to highlight that again. I can't speak too much about what our library brings to our community. The other thing I want to ask Mr. Cochran to update us on is our redistricting effort, if you would fill us in.
Yes, everybody's aware redistricting is taking place. We're looking at what that looks like. The committee met last week, had an open hearing to get input from the citizens and how they might see their vision of how the maps might look. One of the important things is the NIA boundaries are not changing at all. So it'll just be the council districts, but not the NIA districts. They will remain the same, which is important. They stay intact. The important thing is that they have their next meeting set for September 1st. They're continuing to receive citizen input on that process, and then they have to present a final product to the governing body by September 30th. So if you still want to provide input to the redistricting process, please do so. You're able to do that through a variety of different ways. You can contact your council district members if you want, or you can contact the city manager's office if you need be, or the mayor's office, and we can get you to where you need to be if you have inputs or comments. But this is extremely important to the citizens of Topeka and to the city as a whole, because it does impact the next election that will take place in a couple years. So it is important part of our process. It's a process that sometimes people don't think much about, don't think it's important, but it is extremely important. So if you, as the mayor really pointed out last election, please get out and vote. Voter turnout was extremely high, and I'd like to say that's because of the mayor pushing everybody, not that it was a big election, but because the mayor kept pushing that point. But redistricting is extremely important to the citizens of Topeka and the city as a whole, and as we move forward. So again, they meet September 1st. If you have input, please provide that, and then they present a final product to the governing body on September 30th.
Thank you, I appreciate the update. You know, it's important, and you hear me say over and over, if you have questions, if you want to find out about things that are happening in the city, contact your district representative, your council rep, because that's your elected representative. And you can reach out and contact them pretty easily, and that's what they're there for. And they know that, and that's why they ran for that office. So utilize them. They are your advocate for those things that you have of interest. So I appreciate that we're talking about that redistricting, because it could have changed, and there are a lot of things that come to mind after the fact. Try and get ahead of it and talk to your council representatives. One other thing I want to just kind of brief update, if we could, on from Mr. Wade. We know that the budget process is in place. We've had several presentations during council meetings. If you can kind of give us an idea of what's next for as we approach that new process that we're using.
So our next council meeting, September 6th, there'll be a public hearing for public comment on the budget, some additional consideration by the governing body at that point in time. I'm sure there'll be some discussion back and forth. Mr. Mayor, we hope we have a vote on the 13th of September. And assuming that we get approval on that one, we'll submit it on to the county for finalization.
Okay, thank you. I might also mention, before I forget, that we were able to visit with Ralph Hipp as he gets ready for his retirement, and got to visit with him and congratulate him for his, I think it was over 30 years of service at WIBW. He and I go way back as well. I've been through a number of campaigns, and I've always had the opportunity to visit with Ralph about those campaigns, but he has been a real trademark of our local news media, along with Channel 27 as well. But Ralph, when they first started that Red Couch thing, he wasn't really sure it was going to take off, but then it did, and a lot of people really enjoyed the opportunity to have that short time to visit with him and present their opportunities that are happening for events and issues in the city. So our congratulations to Ralph. I can't remember when his last broadcast is, but it's coming up pretty quickly.
September 2nd.
The weatherman says September 6th. So,
Second.
second, okay. See, just like the weatherman, he changed it. Partly sunny, cloudy, but now it's, okay, September the 2nd. But yeah, our congratulations to him, because he has done an excellent job serving the community and keeping our local news local, as does Channel 27 as well. You can get a lot of feeds anymore from streaming and everything, but it's nice to hear what's going on locally. So our congratulations to him. I would like to also invite you, when you have an opportunity, to take a couple doors down and stop and visit in my office. I continue with the Mayor's Art Initiative. We had some pieces up for about, I think, 45 days or so. But Arts Connect and Gallery 785 have really done an excellent job in bringing in new pieces from local artists. And that was my whole intent, is to highlight the skills and abilities of our local arts community, because they are large and thriving and very, very good. So I want people to appreciate what we have in our community as talent. And so if you get an opportunity, take some time to look at it. I know Gretchen has been very good at pushing it out there on social media. I looked at some of the pictures the other day that you took. You did a good job, excellent job. Thank you, Gretchen, I appreciate it. But that's, for me, the last thing that I have that I wanted to speak directly to. City Manager, is there something that I didn't cover that you might want to cover?
That I'd like to cover, I'd like to put out, if you're looking for a job, the city of Topeka has a lot of openings still. All kinds of skill sets. So you may think, well, what can I do for the city of Topeka? Or what can the city of Topeka do for me? We got great jobs, great opportunities, great benefit package. So you can go online and look at all the openings and just kind of cruise through there and see. And something sparks your interest, please apply. And you never know. We got a lot, like I said, a lot of opportunities. It's a great place to work. City of Topeka's, as the mayor said, you know, it's kind of an honor, I think, to work for the city of Topeka. And I've worked for the city of Topeka for a long time. And so I encourage you to apply. Lots of openings. So.
Thank you. Mr. Wade, anything?
No, sir.
Okay. That's all we have. So are there any questions from the group?
I had a question about, back to the city manager thing. You mentioned there's still 4 candidates that are running for it,
Yes, sir. We got 4 candidates in the final process.
and the timing is still the same. You mentioned August 30th. That hasn't changed.
Correct. August 30th, there'll be interviews. The governing body will meet, and then they have to go into executive session. Then they'll start the interview process. Then the candidates, they'll be going on at the same time. The community interview panel and the governing body panel interviews, and candidates will swap and rotate. And we will be providing them a tour of the city of Topeka, so they get a chance to look around and see that. And then the public comment starts at 5:30, I believe.
Any time as to when they might start, like first day for the new candidate?
Well, that will depend upon the candidate. Candidates in this process at this level, a lot of them have agreements with the city where they're at currently, and some of them may have like a 2-month window that they have to provide and stuff like that. So the start date is very arbitrary at this point, depending on the candidate.
I know that the road assess services is in town serving the roads. Can you tell me a little bit about when the company began, how long the project will take, and what the hopes are to get out of the project? Yeah,
the project began about a week ago, and it's assessing all the roads, and this time we're also assessing the alleys in the city of Topeka. And so it's one of those things that, you know, people say, well, I can drive around and take a look and see which roads need replaced. Well, that's an easy thing to say, but what this does, it gives you an in-depth report as to the status of the roadway, the longevity that's left in that roadway, what, you know, immediate steps can be taken to replace it, or what steps need to be taken to fix it. So the process will take about 3 to 4 weeks to get through all the streets and alleys of the city of Topeka. And it's one of those things that we do about every 3 years, but this is the first year that we are assessing alleys as well. And so it's one of those things that'll give us a tool, so when we start looking into the future, road projects, where we want to direct our attention, it'll really give us some very valuable information as to how we can move forward.
This may not be in your guys' wheelhouse, but KDOT, of course, the whole Quincy Viaduct, big project right here. We're hearing, there's a couple of businesses that, I don't know how to word this, aren't as motivated to get out of their buildings, I guess, on time. Any updates on that, or that you know?
Yeah, KDOT is in charge of that project, and as you know, they have the process in which they're trying to acquire the properties, and they will acquire those properties at the end of the day. And so they're in negotiations to a fair market price as to what those properties are worth. But, you know, at some point that will come to an end, and they'll have the properties. And so that's what's going on right now, is the fair market price discussion of what that's worth. Because those businesses and property owners have to relocate. And, you know, when we think of some of those, a very valuable partner we have, for example, is Harvesters. Harvesters has very specific needs and spatial needs, and so looking for a different piece of property that can meet their needs, whether they have to build or whether they can rehab a building, is extremely important. We want to keep those community partners in the city of Topeka, so we as the city are trying to help those businesses locate other facilities as well. So we're not in the negotiation part, but we're in the part of, hey, we want to keep you in the city of Topeka. And so, you know, like Harvesters would be a priority that we're trying to keep in the city of Topeka.
And so lastly, on the Fort Quincy kind of deal, you see signs that are coming in to town, like 475 West, it's closed. Or, you know, avoid the area, that kind of stuff. When that happens, of course, there's a lot of traffic coming through alternate routes, probably just right downtown. Any plans to kind of work around that? You just
The fortunate thing for us is the closure of eastbound or westbound traffic is only supposed to last about 3 weeks. And so there is a detour set up. It is an inconvenience, you know, because it's main thoroughfare, right? But the alternate routes are working very well. There's 470, there's also the Oakland Expressway, and then, you know, the detour through the city of Topeka, where you get off at 8th Street exit, you go up to 6th Street over to Topeka Boulevard, down to 1st Street, and then back onto the highway. So it's a pretty easy detour. It just does get congested when you start, and, you know, do get bigger tractor trailers and stuff like that use that route. Hopes are they use the 470 route. But the fortunate thing for us, like I said, 3 weeks, I think we're already almost a week into it. And so then when that gets reopened, you know, we'll have one lane each way. So we're very excited about that, and we're excited about the progress in which the project's going.
And then one last thing on that. Do you think KDOT will have any plans to kind of close the viaduct to any of those semi-trucks?
The conversations that we've had with KDOT, and we have them very often, there are no plans to stop truck traffic on I-70 at this point, what we've been told, which is good news.
Speaking of the Fort Quincy Viaduct, can you give me a little update on how the progress is, expectations of when it will be completed, stuff like that?
The overall project itself, once they get the repairs done and then they get the land acquisition completed, there is supposed to be some demolition of some properties starting to take place at the end of August. Utility work will then start after the first of the year. Major relocation of utilities, it's extremely important. Then the actual project will begin in 25, I believe, and then it's expected to take about 2 years.
One last question. Where does the abandoned project of Connect 55 stand today?
Well, it's not an abandoned project. They are actually working on it. They have work crews on ground as we speak. It's a small crew. They had ran into some financial situations because the price of products had gone up. And so they found themselves in a gap in which they needed to get financing. We've been told that they have obtained that financing. On Wednesday, There is a walkthrough with city staff and inspectors with the construction site manager. And then in a couple of weeks, we plan a hard hat tour for the governing body so they can get a firsthand look at where that project is at. That's an extremely important project for the city of Topeka. That's going to be a great thing once that gets fully operational and going. And they have a target end date of being completed. And I can get that for you here after this. But it's a project that they're dedicated to. They have a small workforce crew on ground right now. They've had materials delivered, and so within the next couple of weeks, they really plan on getting that project moving.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. Have a good day.